Before snacks were organic, protein-packed, and carefully labeled, the 1980s gave us something far more unforgettable. It was a decade of neon wrappers, cartoon mascots, and lunchboxes packed with sugar-coated dreams. Every corner store felt like a treasure hunt, every commercial promised something outrageous, and every bite tasted like pure childhood freedom. Some of those snacks disappeared quietly. Others were taken from shelves without warning. But the memories never left. Tonight, we're unwrapping 10 forgotten 1980s snacks that once ruled recess, sleepovers, and after-school afternoons, and asking one simple question: why did we ever let them go? We still crave them. Do you remember the sound of that small plastic lid snapping open at the lunch table? Inside was a treasure, tiny cookies and a compartment of frosting, waiting to be conquered. Dunkaroos weren't just a snack in the late 1980s. They were a ritual. Launched in 1988, these kangaroo-branded treats quickly became playground currency. You didn't just eat them. You performed them. Some kids carefully dipped each cookie, making sure the frosting lasted. Others scooped recklessly, determined to finish the vanilla icing before the bell rang. No matter the strategy, the result was the same: sticky fingers, sugar rush, and pure happiness. The magic was in the balance. The cookies were slightly crunchy, almost plain on their own. But paired with that thick swirl of frosting, they transformed into something irresistible. Birthday cake flavor felt like a party in a box. Chocolate frosting made you feel rebellious. And if you were lucky enough to trade for a different flavor at lunch, it felt like winning the lottery. What made them unforgettable wasn't just the taste. It was the era. Bright lunchboxes. Saturday morning cartoons. Commercials that made the kangaroo feel like a celebrity. Dunkaroos were part of a childhood rhythm that felt simple and endless. Then, quietly, they began disappearing from shelves. By the early 2010s in the United States, they were gone, leaving behind only memories and online petitions begging for their return. For many who grew up in the 80s and 90s, opening a pack today would be more than nostalgia. It would be a time machine back to cafeteria tables, carefree afternoons, and a world where the biggest decision of the day was how much frosting to use on the last cookie. There was a time when the freezer section held a secret that felt almost luxurious. Tucked between cartons of ice cream and popsicles sat a box that promised something smoother, richer, and impossibly creamy. Jell-O pudding pops were not just frozen treats. They were summer on a stick. Introduced in the early 1980s, these chocolate and vanilla bars had a texture unlike anything else in the freezer. They weren't icy. They didn't drip the way popsicles did. Instead, they melted slowly, coating your tongue with thick, velvety sweetness. On hot afternoons, kids would rush inside, fling open the freezer door, and reach for that familiar box with eager hands. The magic was in their simplicity. No bright swirls. No candy pieces. Just deep chocolate, smooth vanilla, and sometimes a swirl of both twisted together. They felt a little more grown-up than other frozen treats, almost elegant, yet still playful enough to enjoy barefoot on the porch. Television commercials made them even more iconic. The image of someone savoring that creamy bite became part of 1980s pop culture. Pudding pops weren't just dessert. They were a shared experience at family barbecues, birthday parties, and neighborhood gatherings. But by the 1990s, something changed. Production slowed. Distribution shifted. Eventually, they vanished from most grocery stores, leaving fans confused and disappointed. Many tried to recreate them at home, freezing pudding in molds, but it was never quite the same. For those who grew up with them, the memory lingers. The way the chocolate softened just enough before the first bite, the quiet satisfaction of finishing one before it melted too much. Pudding pops were a small pleasure from a simpler time, and their absence still feels like a missing piece of summer. Before resealable bags and single-serve pouches took over store shelves, there was a bright blue canister that practically glowed in the snack aisle. You knew it instantly. Planters cheese balls weren't subtle. They were bold, crunchy, and impossible to eat without evidence. Twist open that plastic lid, and inside waited a mountain of perfectly round, neon orange spheres. They looked almost too bright to be real. But one handful was never enough. The texture was airy yet crisp, shattering softly with each bite before melting into salty, cheesy bliss. Within minutes, your fingers were coated in orange dust, a badge of honor no napkin could fully erase. In the 1980s, these weren't just snacks. They were party staples. Sleepovers weren't complete without that blue can sitting in the center of the floor. Family game nights, backyard barbecues, even holiday gatherings somehow included a towering stack of cheese balls beside the chips and dip. Kids reached in by the handful. Adults pretended they were only having a few. Part of their charm was the container itself. That tall, reusable canister felt indestructible. Long after the cheese balls were gone, the container found a second life holding coins, crayons, or mystery junk in kitchen cabinets across America. Then, almost without warning, they disappeared in the mid-2000s. No farewell. No dramatic announcement. Just an empty space where the blue can once stood. Loyal fans flooded message boards and grocery chains with questions, wondering how something so iconic could simply vanish. For those who grew up with them, the memory is vivid. The crunch, the color, the laughter around the snack table. Planters cheese balls weren't refined or subtle. They were messy, joyful, and unapologetically 80s, and that's exactly why we still want them back. There was something magical about opening your lunchbox and spotting a giant cookie wrapped all by itself. Not two cookies. Not a row in a sleeve. Just one massive, dramatic treat staring back at you. Oreo Big Stuff felt larger than life. Introduced in 1987, this oversized version of the classic sandwich cookie wasn't meant to be shared. It was thick, hefty, and individually wrapped like a prized possession. Peeling back the plastic felt ceremonial, like unwrapping a birthday present in the middle of a school day. The familiar chocolate wafers were there, but everything was amplified. More cookies, more creme, more indulgence. It wasn't just the size that made it special. It was the statement. Pulling out an Oreo Big Stuff at lunch instantly made you the center of attention. Friends would stare. Some would ask for a bite. Most just admired it from across the table. It felt extravagant in a way regular snacks didn't. The texture made it unforgettable. The thick wafers had a satisfying snap, while the generous layer of sweet white filling balanced each bite. You could twist it apart like a traditional Oreo, but doing so with something that large felt almost rebellious. Every bite lasted longer, stretching out the joy. But by the early 1990s, Oreo Big Stuff quietly disappeared. Some say rising production costs made it impractical. Others blame changing snack trends. Whatever the reason, it left behind a generation that still remembers the thrill of holding that oversized cookie in their hands. Today, standard Oreos line grocery shelves in countless flavors, but none carry the same bold presence. Oreo Big Stuff wasn't just a cookie. It was an experience, a reminder of an era when bigger truly felt better, and one cookie was all you needed to feel like you'd won the snack lottery. There was a cookie in the 1980s that felt like it was hiding a secret. From the outside, it looked simple, round, soft-baked, almost ordinary. But one bite revealed something unforgettable. Keebler Magic Middles weren't just cookies. They were a surprise waiting at the center. When you broke one open, warm chocolate filling spilled from the middle like treasure. The outer layer was tender and slightly crumbly, baked to a golden brown. But inside was a smooth, rich chocolate core that felt almost decadent for an after-school snack. It was the kind of cookie you ate slowly, just to stretch out the moment. Part of their charm came from the branding. The Keebler elves made it feel whimsical, as if the cookies were crafted in a tiny hollow tree somewhere deep in a storybook forest. Commercials made them seem magical, and for kids in the 80s, they truly were. Finding a pack in the pantry felt like discovering hidden gold. Magic Middles had a balance that made them stand out. They weren't overly sweet. The cookie itself had a buttery flavor that paired perfectly with the creamy chocolate center. Some versions even offered peanut butter filling, adding another layer of richness that fans still talk about today. Then, in the early 1990s, they vanished. No dramatic farewell. Just an empty space where that familiar box once sat. Rumors swirled about production costs and manufacturing challenges, but none of it mattered to loyal fans. All they knew was that a beloved treat was gone. Even now, decades later, petitions and nostalgic posts circulate online, begging for their return. Magic Middles weren't flashy or oversized. They were simple, comforting, and quietly magical, a cookie that proved sometimes the best part is what's hidden inside. In the late 1980s, fruit snacks weren't just chewy candy disguised as something wholesome. They were an adventure sealed inside a crinkly foil pouch. And nothing captured that excitement quite like Shark Bites. Tear open a pack, and a colorful ocean spilled into your palm. Bright reds, deep oranges, translucent yellows. Each gummy shark had its own shape and flavor, but every kid knew there was one piece that mattered more than the rest. The elusive white shark. If you found it, you felt lucky. If you didn't, you kept searching in the next pack. Introduced in 1988, Shark Bites quickly became a lunchbox staple. Their texture was softer than most gummy candies, with a satisfying chew that didn't stick stubbornly to your teeth. The flavors were fruity and bold, leaning into that unmistakable 80s sweetness. But the real magic wasn't just taste. It was the mystery. No two packs felt exactly the same. You never knew how many sharks you'd get, or whether the prized white shark would be hiding inside. That small element of chance turned an ordinary snack into a daily treasure hunt at the cafeteria table. Kids would compare colors, trade favorites, and sometimes split open a pack together, hoping to discover the rare piece. The packaging, decorated with playful ocean graphics, made them feel fun and slightly mischievous. They weren't refined. They were bright, sticky, and joyful. Over time, formulas changed. Shapes evolved. Some versions disappeared altogether. While Shark Bites have resurfaced in different forms, longtime fans insist they're not quite the same as the original late 80s packs. For many who grew up then, the memory lingers, sitting at a lunch table, carefully sorting gummy sharks, scanning for that single white shape. It wasn't just a fruit snack. It was a small, sugary adventure in every bite. Neon green, fizzy, and practically glowing, Hi-C Ecto Cooler wasn't just a drink, it was a phenomenon. Introduced in 1987 alongside the release of the original Ghostbusters movie, it quickly became a symbol of 80s childhood. The moment you popped open that cardboard juice box or poured it into a glass, you weren't just drinking orange pineapple punch, you were holding a piece of pop culture magic. What made it unforgettable wasn't only the color. It was the tie to something bigger. Kids could pretend they were part of the Ghostbusters universe, chasing imaginary ghosts in backyards, living rooms, and neighborhood streets. Every sip felt like a reward, a way to step into a world that blended fantasy and summer afternoons. Hi-C Ecto Cooler had a flavor that was deceptively simple. Tangy orange with a sweet pineapple undertone, it was bright, bold, and instantly refreshing. Unlike standard fruit drinks of the era, it had personality, playful, almost mischievous, and impossible to forget. The neon hue only amplified that sense of excitement, making every pour a small spectacle. At school lunches and birthday parties, Ecto Cooler became more than a drink, it became collectible. Kids saved the juice boxes, sometimes trading them for snacks or simply holding onto them as little badges of coolness. Adults might have rolled their eyes, but for the young and imaginative, it was a must-have. Eventually, licensing changes and declining production led to its disappearance in the mid-2000s. Fans mourned, some even creating online campaigns for its return. Today, Ecto Cooler lives on in memory, a bright green symbol of a time when a simple drink could make summer afternoons feel cinematic. Its legacy endures, reminding anyone who grew up with it that the 1980s had a flavor all its own. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Peanut butter lovers were treated to a candy bar that promised more than ordinary indulgence. PB Max wasn't just another chocolate bar. It was a layered masterpiece, combining crunchy oats, creamy peanut butter, and rich chocolate into a single, unforgettable snack. From the moment you tore open its shiny wrapper, you knew you were in for something special. The peanut butter center was soft but substantial, the chocolate coating perfectly balanced, and the oatmeal layer added a satisfying texture that set it apart from every other candy bar on the shelf. It was indulgence with a hint of sophistication, a snack that felt both hearty and decadent. PB Max became a quiet obsession in the late 1980s. It was the kind of candy bar you saved for after school or a weekend adventure, not something you grabbed casually. Its popularity soared among kids and adults alike who craved peanut butter beyond the sandwich. Every bite offered a perfect harmony of flavor and texture, a combination that felt thoughtfully crafted rather than mass-produced. But like so many 1980s treasures, PB Max's reign was short-lived. By the early 1990s, production slowed and shelves emptied. Some blamed shifting tastes, others blamed marketing decisions. Whatever the reason, it vanished without fanfare, leaving behind only the memories of those who had tasted it. For those who remember, PB Max wasn't just a candy bar. It was a ritual, a small indulgence that turned snack time into an event. Its absence left a void in the peanut butter candy world, and even decades later, fans recall the sweet, nutty, layered perfection that once defined a generation's favorite treat. By the mid-1980s, school cafeterias were filled with tiny containers of excitement, little tubs of sweet, creamy frosting paired with crisp cookies. But there was one treat that took this concept to another level: Dunkaroos. Introduced in 1988, Dunkaroos weren't just cookies with frosting. They were a playful ritual. Each pack contained a dozen small cookies and a compartment of thick frosting for dipping. The magic was in the interaction. How you twirled each cookie, how much frosting you scooped, and the race to finish before the bell rang. It turned snack time into a game, a small daily thrill that kids relished. The variety made them even more addictive. Chocolate frosting with classic cookies. Birthday cake frosting with colorful sprinkles. Every flavor felt like a mini celebration. And the packaging, bright, bold, and featuring that iconic kangaroo mascot, made Dunkaroos instantly recognizable. Lunchboxes proudly displayed them, and trading or sharing a pack became part of playground culture. What made Dunkaroos unforgettable wasn't only the taste. It was the era. Saturday morning cartoons, neon lunchboxes, and the excitement of opening that little plastic lid after a long morning of classes. The treat perfectly captured 1980s childhood, playful, sweet, and a little messy. But just like many 1980s snacks, Dunkaroos eventually disappeared from U.S. shelves in the 2010s, leaving fans nostalgic and eager for a comeback. Social media campaigns, petitions, and online discussions highlighted the longing for this childhood favorite. For those who grew up with them, Dunkaroos weren't just cookies. They were a memory of shared moments, sticky fingers, and carefree afternoons. Rediscovering them would be more than a taste. It would be a portal back to a time when a small snack could spark pure joy. By the late 1980s, there was a chocolate-covered treat that quietly captured the hearts of snack lovers everywhere: Hostess Chocodiles. Part Twinkie, part chocolate indulgence, these snack cakes were a lunchtime favorite and an after-school essential for many kids. The exterior was deceptively simple, smooth chocolate coating hiding a soft, golden cake inside. But once you bit into it, the creamy filling revealed itself, perfectly balanced and sweet without overwhelming. Each chocodile was a miniature celebration, a combination of textures that made every bite feel like a small luxury in the middle of an ordinary day. Part of their charm was nostalgia in motion. Television ads showcased mischievous, playful moments, and the packaging, bright, bold, and instantly recognizable, made them stand out on the crowded snack aisle. Kids could savor them on the bus ride home, at the playground, or during weekend movie nights. It wasn't just dessert, it was an experience. Chocodiles had the perfect balance of sweetness and portability. They were easy to pack in lunchboxes, share with friends, or save for a quiet moment alone. And like many 1980s snacks, they carried a sense of whimsy that today's mass-produced treats often lack. Eventually, production changed, and Chocodiles began disappearing from store shelves. The reasons varied: corporate decisions, changing tastes, and shifting snack trends. But for those who grew up with them, the absence was felt immediately. Even now, decades later, fans reminisce online, sharing memories of that first bite and wishing for a revival. Hostess Chocodiles weren't just snack cakes. They were a symbol of childhood indulgence, a taste of joy wrapped in chocolate, and a small reminder of a simpler, sweeter time that many of us long to revisit. These 10 snacks weren't just treats. They were little time machines, carrying the flavors, colors, and joy of 1980s childhood. From sticky fingers at lunch tables to neon wrappers glowing under kitchen lights, each one tells a story of carefree afternoons and shared laughter. Though most have disappeared from shelves, their memories linger, reminding us of a simpler, sweeter time. Revisiting them, even just in memory, connects us to that era's magic. If this trip down snack memory lane brought back a smile, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Together, we can keep these forgotten treasures alive.